Welcome back to the Backyard Tabletop, everyone. Hello there. Come on in.
Hello.
I am Jacob here. Yeah. Hi, Kurtis. When did you get here?
Just now.
Whoa. Look at that timing. Just in time for the podcast. Wow.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I love it when things work out.
Schedules just align. Hey, do you want to talk about games that you and I are both playing in, but in two different games because we're friends and we like to talk about D&D?
You mean D&D games?
Yeah, like D&D games.
The D&D games we're in?
Yeah, like you play in a Friday game, I play in a Wednesday/Saturday when we get back to the normal schedule.
That was a little too much information, but yes, I'd love to.
Well, wonderful. But first, Kurtis, I want to ask you a question. Was that enough of an intro? I don't know if I explained anything during that intro.
It's a cold open. They'll get it.
Well, if this is your first time, wow, welcome. You're in for quite a treat. Kurtis is going to be putting on his announcer voice today, and he's just going to be talking and telling a story.
What? Like now? No, okay.
Pause for effect.
Once upon a time.
AM radio style. All right. No, we like to talk about D&D, and that's what this podcast is all about. We usually have a story time, but that's toward the end of the game, of the podcast, where we talk about our games. But, Curtis, I want to ask you a fun question today.
Okay.
What is the DM that you find yourself watching these days and like are getting the most inspiration from? It like the media format. I don't know. I tend to watch a lot of D&D podcasts and games out there. Not a whole lot. I bounce around a lot. I'm keeping up right now with Tabletop Notch. That's kind of my latest one, and me and my wife Sarah are currently making our way through the Dungeon Dudes. That's the main ones we're going.
Tabletop Notch is such a I think still kind of hidden gem. They blew up on Shorts and on TikTok for a while there, and now they've got a pretty good sized following. But more people need to go watch Tabletop Notch. It's so good.
100%. But I was just curious, is there a DM that you are watching these days that you're getting inspired by? Or maybe even just like what's one that inspired you most? Maybe that's a better question.
I think I'm going to come out with an answer that at first is going to seem really come on, that's what everybody says, but it's for a different reason. Okay, so,
yes, no. You have to put a little twist on it.
So what I've been doing a lot lately actually is I've been listening to a lot of Matt Mercer. And, I've been watching Critical Role. I actually got really far behind, and now I'm starting to catch back up with Critical Role. I'm 10 or 15 episodes behind.
Yeah.
But
I'm falling behind myself, yeah.
But what I've actually been doing a lot more than that is watching his, little interviews and, different podcasts and things that he's done. Because I've been trying to get a lot more inspiration for the world building of my world that I've been doing, that I've talked about a few times on the podcast.
Yeah.
Just because, I've been pretty busy in my home life and stuff like that. But but I'm trying to keep constant track of it, and if I can't be writing something about it, I might as well be absorbing information that will help me write about it. In the future. So
keep those creative gears turning and thinking about it and not letting that go by the wayside. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. And then I think that's kind of the main thing. But another thing is I've been I've been watching a lot of like Pathfinder people, because we've been starting to learn Pathfinder Second Edition a little bit. We actually played our first game of Pathfinder Second Edition.
Yeah, I did hear about that. We might have to talk about that in a podcast one of these days.
We'll have to talk about it. It was pretty short and sweet, but we all got a taste of it, and it was very fun. It was so much fun. So I've been watching a lot of Pathfinder 2e people, which there is way less resources for like Pathfinder 2e videos, and it's really a shame because there's so many great content creators out there doing stuff for it.
Yeah.
I think Rules Lawyer is probably the one I've been watching the most.
Mm-hmm. I have heard of him. Yeah,
he's pretty great, and he's just so good at explaining everything, like why these things do what they do. But he also has real play games that he runs that are on his channel too. So if you're somebody that learns a lot better by just like watching the game be played, he's a great person because he's running people through it for the first time and teaching them. And so it's almost like you get to sit there and watch while he's teaching.
Oh
them.
Yeah. Is
really
that the
good.
one where he had a bunch of other content creaters playing?
Yeah,
so
he had
D4
Monk,
was on there.
He had Treant Monk. He had D4 Network. He had a bunch of people.
Yeah. I did see. I haven't watched it. I did see that though. It came up on the feed.
It was a while back. It was while all of the legal stuff was happening. Yeah. That was when they played, but they've done a few games since then too, and it's been very fun to watch.
Very cool. Very cool. Wow, that's actually, you took a different route than I thought. That's really cool that you're starting to get a feel for that. I don't know. It really is one of those things. I find myself, I'll watch like 10, 20 minutes of an episode and kind of move on from it. I don't really get sucked in, because I mean they're like 3-hour episodes, and usually there's like 50 episodes you kind of have to go through. So I don't really just have time to invest that much, but it is great to just see how other people are playing the game and how DMs are doing it. Lately I've been watching Tabletop Notch, and Matt would be my answer. He is kind of in my opinion, like if you were to look up the writer DM, like who would be the writer DM, it would be Matt from Tabletop Notch. And that's been really inspiring me lately to, like, there is a lot of improvising when it comes to being a DM. Obviously you can't plan for everything, but he will definitely have planned certain things, certain NPCs, even to the point where like he seems to be reading off dialogue in his notes. And it's just like really inspiring. It's like, hey, you know what? To actually take that time to go that far to write out dialogue, obviously you might not use it all, but it at least gives you developing like a speech pattern or vocabulary or something like that for certain NPCs. Yeah, so
I feel like he's almost like he writes his own like adventure path almost.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then runs it, kind of a thing. You know what I mean? It's not like Matt where he's just like, here's a world that I've written, now play it. Right. And it's not like Brennan who's like, I have a very defined story I want to tell. Come along with me and play it. He's more, and then we'll just make it up as we go along.
Yeah.
Which is very Brennan. But he's more like, I've got a specific adventure that you guys are going to play through, and you can vary from it and move this way and move that way, but there are almost like triggers in the world for the players. It feels like, in his games.
There was and this is just me, so it's specifically in Tabletop Notch. They had a season 1, season 2 of campaign 1, and they're actually going to be starting their campaign 2. So I'm excited for that one.
Oh.
But the interesting thing is, like, the first season 1 of their campaign was like a little bit more sandboxy, because the players were all new, and so he was just kind of getting them into the world. Season 2 was a little bit more on rails, because I think he wanted to get through the story that he had planned. giving them a little bit more of. So it's interesting to see that, but I don't know. It's just been inspiring for me to see a quote unquote writer DM, because you mentioned Matt Mercer. Matt Mercer definitely is my kind of like, when I was getting into D&D, he was the one I went to. He was the one I was watching and probably inspired me the most. So I think if I were to, obviously nowhere near his level, but if I were to like try to describe my DM style, it would be very close to Matt, because it's like I heavily rely on my players and slowly kind of build around that. So I don't know. It's been kind of a change to see someone new, if you will.
Yeah, I think probably the person I most would liken my DMing style to, it would probably actually be like Chris Perkins.
That's a good one.
I don't know if you've actually watched any of his games, but
I've seen a few. Yeah,
he because he mostly does like the pre-written stuff, because of course he works there and writes all of these things, or at least helps write all of them, or oversees the writing of all of these D&D campaign adventures.
Right.
And so he tends to run those. But he's not afraid to switch things up in the book, and he'll change things here and there. He'll adjust this because it fits better here. He'll move this over because it fits the characters. But he's also very focused on making sure the characters belong there in the first place. He doesn't just say, everybody make what you want and then I'll shape around that. No, he's like, here's some ideas of what to make some things in this because I want to make sure it fits the story,
Right.
And that's how I like to play too, at least when I'm running by the book.
Yeah. No, 100%. That's a great one. Also, I liked Chris's laid back attitude, and you do have a not a casual attitude, but when it comes to DM, you look like you're always in control. Like you're just like, yeah, all right, sounds good.
Cool.
And usually it's probably Sarah, the one that's just like, oh, you're making me have to think about this, but okay.
Yeah.
It's very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Well, if you all out there watching this have inspirations in the D&D community, we would love to hear the ones that kind of speak to you, because this is a huge community, and especially recently with the success of the movie, with the success of Baldur's Gate 3, with all the craziness that went on earlier in the year with the OGL that was mentioned. It's like it has been in, whether good or ill, it has been in the media all over the place. So a lot of people are playing these days and trying new things, and it's really fun to see how different people play.
Yeah, and something else too is we talk about D&D a lot on here because that's the main game we play, but we do play in Pathfinder worlds. Mm-hmm. So I think it's also really, really fun to go see some Pathfinder stuff too. They need some love.
Oh, 100%.
Pathfinder's way less popular,
Yeah.
It has a strong following, but it's not nearly as big as D&D. So if there's anyone watching who has some particular favorite Pathfinder content creators, leave some comments about that too.
We would definitely love that. The snippet, how was it playing Pathfinder this couple days ago?
So much. I was going into that expecting it to feel like how it did when we played the Dragon Age RPG.
Yes.
Where it was stopping every 10 minutes to look that up. How does that work? Oh, okay, that's how that works. Great. Yeah, do that. It did not. It was so quick and so simple and so fluid.
Yeah.
And none of us have played before.
Okay.
The DM hadn't even played before. And it was just so... Everything just went.
Just did it.
It's just great. Because here's the thing. If you know D&D 5e, you're 85% of the way to knowing how to play Pathfinder. It's so much less of a leap than I was expecting it to be. And it was a lot of fun. It was
fun. I think for me, just a little snippet, I think this would be a fun thing to get into maybe next podcast or something. We'll talk a little bit about this. I think for me, the intimidation part is not necessarily the first 3 levels. It's level 4, level 5, level 6 that I think for me would start getting really intimidating.
To be fair, we were playing at level 2, so like everything is still pretty simple at that level. But I think the good thing is if you start at level 1 and just slowly make your way up, you've got time to adjust to the new things, and it's much easier to play that way than just going, let's play a level 15 game so that we all know how it feels to play high level. Because then everyone's just going,
yeah, like what?
What does this do? What do you mean I can choose 16 feats? What's happening?
I feel like Pathfinder would be, unless you get pre-written character sheets, that would be really hard to just do as quick as 5e. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, at this point, Kurtis, would you like to jump into story time with Kurtis?
Yeah.
That's you.
Let's do it. That's me. Hello, it's me, Storytime with Kurtis. Hi, Storytime with Kurtis. I'm Dad. Anyway, so
that was such a great transition. That was so good.
Music drifting in.
Yeah, maybe
put in a little kind of slightly ominous, creepy tone here.
Okay,
Jake.
And as you lean closer into the microphone.
As I lean closer into the microphone. So last we left off with the Trouble Seekers.
Before you really jump into it, has anyone like called you guys out? Like, hey, look, it's the Trouble Seekers, and then people like be like, no, don't. It's like, son, stop. No, like don't follow them.
Not like on the streets, but I mean, some of the guards know us and have called us by name and stuff. Yeah.
The Trouble Seekers.
We're not like widely publicly known necessarily.
Okay. Getting there.
But certain circles know what we're up to.
What do the guards think of you guys? Like you're known as the Trouble Seekers. That doesn't sound very like. It sounds like more mischievous.
We're not the troublemakers.
Okay.
We're the trouble seekers. We seek it out.
Okay.
And then we, stop the trouble.
Gotcha. Okay, the trouble stoppers, if you will, but
no,
you have to find it out first.
That sounds terrible. Trouble seekers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yes.
We're making an effort. We're looking for it. We're not just letting it come to us.
Perfect. Yes. 100%. Okay, I'm on
being
board.
Proactive. We're proactively seeking trouble. So last we left the Trouble Seekers, they had just been given a mission of sorts by the Field Marshal Cressida Croft to head into the now quarantined section of the city called Old Korvosa. Now, this section of the city is completely separated from the landmass that is main Korvosa. It was the original settling place of Korvosa. That's why it's called Old Korvosa.
Okay.
And it's kind of split from the main city by a I guess it's kind of a river, but it's very thin. It's like a canal of sorts.
Okay.
Because all of Korvosa sits like on a river, like at the edge of a river. So
right, you guys are almost coast, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
So we were told that there are some shady things happening in Old Korvosa, and that when we mentioned that, hey, maybe Old Korvosa is a good place to look for this cult of Urgathoa, because if there was anywhere that they would want to stay hidden, it would be in the middle of a quarantine zone.
Right. And we believe that there may be the cause of the plague that's going on, correct?
Yes. Cal's completely convinced.
Okay. I mean,
that's the case, but not everyone.
Yeah, the clues all led to it because, I mean, you guys found like evidence of this. It happened right after the ship was shot down, but then also the symptoms are very similar to a disease that wiped out another place. So yeah,
we found mention of a priestess of Urgathoa who just left somewhere else on the ship that was shot down. So we started heading that way, and in order to get into the quarantine zone right now, you must basically be volunteer body movers.
Right.
You have to volunteer to go and clear out the dead bodies in Old Korvosa, because there are so many lining the streets and piling up in the corners that they need volunteers to move the dead.
Awful.
So,
wow.
We were requisitioned some wheelbarrows by Cressida Croft, and that's what we did. The next morning, we started making our way towards Old Korvosa with some wheelbarrows, and we come to the gates, and again, they're being well guarded by some of the city guards, as well as more Grey Maidens, which we are seeing more and more of pop up around the city. What we're also seeing more and more of pop up around the city are like roving bands of the Queen's physicians, which are like the plague doctors.
Yes.
And they are kind of roving around the city, going from door to door. And what we're seeing is like there'll be an escorted group of like 2 or 3 plague doctors, Queen's physicians. We're calling them plague doctors because that's what they look like.
I totally get you.
two or 3 Queen's physicians, along with an escort of like 1 or 2 Grey Maidens and some guards.
Okay.
And they'll go around the town and basically like check homes, and any homes that are just everybody inside is either quarantined or dead, they'll put a red X on the door.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then they will try to help anyone that is sick.
Okay.
We don't know whether we trust that yet at this point.
Yes, because because at least Cal believes that the Queen might be in on this whole cult thing.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we're all kind of filled with a heavy dose of mistrust for anything officially sanctioned by the Queen at this point.
Okay.
Because she's been seeming like such a shady character that anything that's like, yes, the Queen fully endorses this and promises it will be good for the city, we're like, definitely not.
Oh no.
So, we get to the bridge. We speak to one of the Grey Maidens guarding it. Let them know we're here to volunteer, trying to help the city. We'll move some of the bodies. We've all got like face coverings. We've all got our gloves on, everything like that. And we are told essentially that by the next day, they will no longer be accepting volunteers, and that only officially sanctioned people, which would be Grey Maidens, guards, or Queen's physicians, are going to be allowed in, and they'll be taking care of the dead themselves. So they said,
"Oh dear,
try and be out. Try and be out. Yeah, try and be out by nightfall, because by tomorrow you can go in if you want, but you can't leave."
Oh no.
So that's what we were told, and so we're like, okay, well, we better be quick.
You got a time limit.
We head in, and it's bad. It's like,
oh no.
We're just walking down streets, and it's just coughing every direction we look, wails of pain. Every house we pass by either has a red X on it, or we hear coughing from inside. We see a bunch of these kind of roving groups of Queen's physicians going along through houses and checking things. Lots of Grey Maidens around guarding stuff. There's just like bodies on the sides of the street everywhere, in piles some places. So it's rough. This is definitely the worst. This is the worst section of the city. The most badly hit because everything's much tighter in Old Korvosa because it was the first place founded. So it grew and then grew up because there wasn't space,
Right.
So there's a lot of people in a very small section, and it goes up too.
Okay.
And there's the Old Korvosa is where the what was it called? Rafters.
Okay.
I can't remember what it was called. It was where we chased
right.
the girl before
yes.
across the rooftops.
Yes. That was like, that was a lot of time ago. Yeah.
That became kind of like a Korvosa thing, but it started here, and the reason is because they ran out of room. And so people would just start building these little ramshackle shacks on the tops of their buildings and connecting them with all of these different little bridges and stuff. And so, I mean, this place is packed to the gills, especially near the water's edge. And it's just
not good.
It's just being ravaged by this disease.
And that reminds me a lot of like because Sarah and I like listening to like folklore stuff. So there's a few podcasts we like to listen to, and they talk a lot about like in Scotland, that's what they would do is like because there wasn't a lot of room to grow, so they would usually build stuff on top of each other, because that's how they had to do it in those days, because they're especially on small places like Ireland and Scotland, on those small little islands, there's just not a lot of room. So that's so it kind of makes sense. It's right next to the water's edge like that.
And even in those days and age, it was like you've got a defined rim where your town is, because if you go further than that, you're like in the wilds and you're getting too far away from the town center, and you're a better target for raiders, all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, so it's like, and kelpies. So it's like,
and
Kurtis,
instead of building my house, outside of the city's edge, which is the only place there's room for it, I'll just build it on top of my mom's house.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Keep it in the family.
So that's kind of how it was here, and it's just terrible. So we start walking through, and we kind of start booking it straight towards where we know this place called Racker's Alley is. Racker's Alley is what we were told to go investigate by Cressida Croft. She said that there's some weird things going on there. It seems like people might be just dumping the bodies that they're picking up there. And not actually bringing them to the grave. They're not sure why, but Racker's Alley has... Racker's Alley is a bit infamous. It's known for being a shady spot where, dark dealings are done and criminal organizations meet and things like that. So...
Yeah.
So, we start heading that way. Cal knows exactly where it is. For reasons. So
backstory, insight check reasons.
So we start making our way, and we get out of kind of the main city section, the mainly populated section of the town, and we start getting up towards sort of the historical site part of town, which is where more of the old town hall, and the sword training place and the guard training place and all these different places are held here in Old Korvosa still. Start getting more towards that section of the town, and as we're going by, we hear kind of a commotion coming from off of the road to our right.
Okay.
And it kind of sounds like a crowd maybe forming, or maybe even a riot in that's currently happening. And so we all kind of collectively say it's not worth it. We've got a time limit. Let's just keep moving.
Oh wow. Okay.
And then Squish is like, I could just sneak over and look and then come back. I won't get involved. And Cal grabs him by the shoulders and says, okay, you can do this, but here's the thing. No matter what you see, you cannot get involved. No matter what you see, because we need you here. We need you with us.
Mm-hmm.
You're helpful to us. You might find something over there that you think you can help with, but if you die doing that, we're screwed. We need you, so don't do that. Don't get involved. Just look. He's like, okay.
Dad lecture.
Yes.
Dad lecture Cal over here. I love it.
He's like, it's fine. I'll just go sneak over and I'll take a peek. So Squish sneaks out, kind of pushes through some bushes and heads out that direction while we kind of like slowly keep walking to try and like give him time to come catch up with us.
Okay.
Squish moves off and eventually sneaks up to find a crowd that has gathered in sort of like a town center kind of place. And they have gathered and have started kind of yelling and trying to find answers from a group of, I believe it was 3 Gray Maidens.
Okay, so some guards. Okay.
At this point, there's like I think there were like 50-ish people that have kind of gathered and started kind of yelling at the Gray Maidens. Like the Squish hears them asking all sorts of things like, we have to see our families. Why can't our families come see us? Like, we've got people in the main city. Why can't we leave if we just go to the people we know? Basically a bunch of people mad about the quarantine, trying to get answers from the Gray Maidens. And the Gray Maidens are like stoic, not answering, just kind of holding a line here. Basically, the Gray Maidens at some point, and I'm not giving exact things that they said, but at some point the Gray Maidens were like, return to your homes. The quarantine is by order of the Queen. You cannot leave. Return to your homes. If you get violent, we will get violent.
Yeah.
They all have like their hands on their weapons. They're all just ready, waiting for something to happen.
Ooh,
and I think Squish even takes note that like they look eager almost.
The people
just
do.
Want the Gray Maidens look like they want something to happen almost.
Interesting.
And they're just holding their ground. They're not like egging them on, which, they're not doing that. They're not like, come on, why don't you fight us then? They're staying stoic. But they look ready to react as soon as anything happens. And I think at one point, somebody in the crowd tosses a rock, and it clinks off of one of their helmets. And Squish watches as these 3 Gray Maidens systematically and efficiently and within seconds just eviscerate a crowd of close to 100 people.
You're kidding.
Taking no damage, taking no prisoners.
Oh my gosh.
And nobody gets out. Nobody leaves. They don't let anybody escape.
Dude, that's freaking sick. Oh my God. In like, more ways than one.
the slightest show of aggression, and they kill everyone.
Jeez. Oh my
everyone.
God.
Even the people that were like just yelling from the sidelines or just kind of not even barely involved. If you're in the crowd, you're dead.
Oh my gosh. Just out of curiosity, just from I guess a like more games way, are they like fighters, or was there magic going off, or was it just like?
It didn't seem magical at all. It was just very quick, systematic, efficient sword play. And they worked incredibly well as a team. They were fast. They knew what they were doing, and they were efficient. So they were very well trained. But as far as I remember, there was no signs of any magic involved.
Okay. That's pretty baller. Dang.
And then as soon as that finishes, they just kind of all clean their blades, sheath their swords, and by that time Squish booked it out of there because he was like, he literally was like, and just like left, and he like on his way back to us stopped in the bushes and just completely lost his lunch. Just
Jesus,
straight up,
yeah,
because he just watched close
like
to 100 people.
Hundreds of people.
Close to 100 people just instantly get eviscerated.
Yeah. I don't know if you're familiar with like Mistborn, the first book of that. They reminded me of a scene in that book. That's pretty great. Jeez, that's insane. So now I guess one of you have seen now what the Grey Maidens are capable of, and I mean they look freaking dope. Like I love the armor, love their design, and now it's kind of like, okay, they are like elite of the elite trained killers type of thing.
Yeah,
within
and
seconds
they
can kill hundreds of people. Yeah,
I think the biggest thing was that they like worked well together. They were like pushing past each other, covering each other's unguarded sections, and Dip described it very well. Like they are efficient, they work well together, they know what they're doing, they know how to kill quickly and efficiently.
Okay. It's kind of like they've obviously trained together. It's kind of like a Knights Templar type of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Very cool. But also almost very scary.
It's like they're like the spec ops of the city guard, basically.
Right. Now is it like a military force, or are these like there's a few dozen of them elite guard type of thing? Do you guys know? You don't really know.
So far as we've seen, I mean, there's probably over, there's a lot of them, because we see them around the city all the time, and we see them guarding stuff. Like their numbers have definitely steadily increased over the course of, after we saw the very first one and they were announced. Their numbers have been increasing, and they don't number like the guard yet.
Right.
And we've and well, this is something Dip said just this past time, but I think we've seen it by this point already. He said we've seen like distinct differences of like armor within the Grey Maidens.
Okay.
There's like ones that are direct guards of the Queen, and we've seen them. And they look different than like the higher ranked ones that are like guarding points of interest. And they look slightly different than the ones that are like the rank and file that walk around with the Queen's physicians.
So there is like a ranking system
ranks
within.
They're not just like the highest rank of city guard. They're their own thing. They're totally separate, and they only answer to the Queen.
Very cool. Okay.
Super cool.
Now, and Cressida is more on the guard side, so that's why she's
Cressida is the field marshal of the guard. Yes.
Yeah.
And so she's Cressida runs the city guard, basically.
Yeah. Cool. Okay.
And so she also reports to the Queen, but her loyalties lie with the city.
Right. Okay.
So after this, Squish runs back to us, just pale and with quite a bit of trauma, and with kind of a shaky voice, explains to us what he saw. And so now we all know, Grey Maidens, they look tough, and they are tough.
Yeah.
So if we're going to get in a fight with one, we better be ready for it. Okay. So, especially if there's numbers, because they seem to work well together.
Okay.
So we continue along with Squish in tow now, just kind of like just like pale faced and like, oh my god, what did I just see?
What did I just see? Why did I suggest going to do that?
Poor guy. We continue along. We get to Racker's Alley. Now Racker's Alley is this kind of small little alleyway at the corner of a street, and it's kind of like connected to the back of a shop that's like a toy shop. But it's a really weird toy shop. It's kind of like infamous for being like, the guy who owns it's like kind of a creep, and it's like a weird place. And the toys there have like too many legs.
Classic creepy NPC of a toy shop. Yes.
Yeah,
I'm here for it.
The toys there have too many legs, and they're really creepy dolls and all this other stuff. And there's like kites there that look weird and all sorts of stuff.
Lovely. I'm here for it. I just got flashbacks of Curse of Strahd.
Yep. A lot of people kind of think that toy shop's basically just a front, because nobody would actually go in there and buy toys. So it's got to be a front for something.
Okay.
So we get to Racker's Alley with our wheelbarrows, and we head in. It's called, I don't know why it's called Racker's Alley necessarily, but the reason it's like a shady place for business is because it's like covered by other stuff, and it like kind of narrows as it gets towards the back. It's like a really great place to just have little nefarious meet and greets. And it's like well shaded and covered and away from prying eyes. So we start heading into Racker's Alley, and we are immediately met with a terrible stench as we find a mountainous pile of bodies. Hundreds and hundreds of bodies, all in one single pile in this alleyway.
Okay. Now, I would imagine this whole place is probably spelt like that. So this hitting you is
for
also
sure.
Probably like, oh, God, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, but the alley's just a mess. I mean, it's filled with blood and viscera and bodies, and it's just terrible. Which seems weird. It's like, why would people just be dumping bodies here? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, are they coming here just to get into Old Korvosa because they have bodies on their cart, and then they just dump them here so that they can just do whatever they want in the city? Or like why would they be dumping them here? It doesn't really make any sense. They don't get anything from carting bodies. Like, there's no reward. It's a volunteer position.
Right. Which is also interesting. Yeah.
So it's like, why is this happening? We're not really sure. So we head into the alley, start kind of poking around, seeing what's going on here. And we start looking at some of the bodies towards the front of this pile. And I think a couple of us rolled investigation checks, but Cal just gets like right in there. He starts getting in and checking things. And looking at the bodies. He's like turning the heads and like checking the skin and things like that.
Now, is this Cal going into investigation mode, so he's almost like turned off his emotions? Or is this kind of like you playing into Cal has this side of him that's not necessarily...
Oh, Cal has no...
sane or something like
Cal's
that.
fear of death no longer exists.
Okay.
So he goes in here and he's just like, cool, dead bodies, whatever. Like, I literally watched somebody die next to me in the alleyway when I was like drunk off my butt, and they just like died with their own barf in their mouth. Like, I don't like it.
Okay.
Like, it doesn't bother him anymore.
He's experienced this. He's
just kind of shut off to it. Yeah.
Okay.
And he's got a job to do. And that's his like major driving force is, I've got a thing to do. People are counting on me. I don't really care what happens to me. I'm just going to hop right in here and see what's going on. Mm-hmm. So he's not even really worried about getting sick or anything. So that's why he just kind of heads into the bodies and starts looking around.
Okay.
Now from a distance, we can already kind of tell something's off about some of these bodies. For starters, only like a small number of them seem to have signs of blood veil.
Okay, interesting.
Most of them like don't even have rashes, don't have any like blotching on the skin, don't have red eyes. This is not good. Yeah, they're just dead people. Like, they didn't die from the disease. At least it doesn't look like it.
Okay. Do they have wounds on them, or they just?
So Cal gets closer to see, like, okay, well, if they didn't die by blood veil, how did they die? And he gets closer, and he notices that they're all exceptionally pale, like incredibly pale, even for a dead body.
Okay.
And he notices some pierce wounds in their necks.
No way. No way. You got some vampires up in here? And so
I think Cal at this point rolled like, do I know what vampires are? And Dip was like, I mean, as much as anybody who's read a lot of books knows what vampires are. And so I said, okay. And he reaches into his scarf, which is like a bladed scarf, almost like the Peaky Blinders where they have like razor blades sewed into their hats.
Yeah.
Cal has a scarf that has like razor blades all sewn into it on the inside.
That's very scary to have close to your neck, but I appreciate it.
So he pulls one of these blades out and just like cuts this person's throat. And no blood drains out. They are dry.
Good God. Wow.
And so he's like, I think we have vampires, guys. And everybody's like, cool,
you
vampires.
Have got to be
I kind of know what that
me.
is.
Wow.
So it's like, most of us are like, we don't really know what vampires are. Like, we know they drink blood. We know there's like master vampires and you know,
spawns and stuff.
Pawns and things like that. But we don't really know a lot about them. We know that usually if you stake them, they die, or you need a magical weapon or things like that.
Yeah.
We know all of the general, like, almost storybook knowledge about vampires.
That's amazing. Wow.
None of us are intimately aware of vampires.
Like, none of you are vampire hunters. Yeah.
And they're not, like, common around here.
Right.
Like... So we say, okay, well, somebody is dropping bodies here to feed these things. Like, we don't know why, or this thing, who knows how many there are, right? But that's a lot of bodies to just be for one dude. Right. Especially since the start of the disease. Like, there hasn't been that much time, and for one dude to just drink, like, over 100 bodies of blood in like a week. It's kind of crazy.
It's like, yeah, that's very true. So yeah, you're probably dealing with a nest of some kind here. Yeah.
So, we see that there's a kind of near the pile of bodies. There's like a wooden fascia side of the toy store, and it's kind of got like a part where there's kind of a gap in the wood, and so we kind of open it up a little bit and head in. And so we head into this toy store. We are immediately greeted with like the workshop.
Okay.
And as soon as we step in back here, it looks like it hasn't been cleaned. It looks like nobody's been here in like days.
Okay.
And we see a body over in a corner.
Okay.
Kind of slouched down on his chair. And so we start exploring. There's all sorts of weird, creepy toys in the midst of being made in here. Weird dolls that have eyes that look too real. All sorts of weird stuff.
Oh, lovely. I'm here for it. Okay.
And we go over to this body and we realize it's the owner. Cal recognizes him. It's the owner of the store. He's pretty well known around these parts because he's like the town weirdo almost.
Yeah,
for Old Korvosa.
Everyone's crazy uncle.
Yeah. And he's dead, way dead. And his body is covered in like claw marks and piercings on his neck. He's pale, just gone. Okay. I think we tried to see if, like, the puncture wounds on his neck, like, could we tell how many separate creatures wounded him? But I don't think we rolled very well, and it was like, it could have just been the same guy, like, 6 times. Like, you don't really know. You can't tell a difference in the puncture wounds. But there's a lot of pairs of wounds on his neck, but you can't really tell, like, how many it was. It could have been 2 that bit him 4 times. It could have been 6 that bit him once. Like, you don't really know. So we
jeez,
we start
you guys
exploring
stumble
the rest
into
of the place.
some vampire stuff, man. That's so fun.
We start exploring the rest of the place. Cal goes to the front, out through the front. He goes to the showroom. Bunch of weird stuff in there. There's like kites on the ceilings and like little toy horses and dolls and all sorts of weird stuff.
Okay.
And Cal immediately goes to the front counter and is like, well, owner's dead, and takes the money out of the register.
Was there money in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not a lot.
So vampires didn't care about the gold. Okay.
And then I think it was Tombstone finds a hatch in the workshop section, like a floor hatch. And he pops it open and hops down into this hatch, and it's like a crawl space. It's short. It's like a crawl space under the whole toy shop, and even like a little further back. It's like a big crawl space underneath. It's like 3 feet tall.
Okay. So perfect for someone like Squish.
Yeah, Squish would be fine under there, but everyone else has to be like hunched and like fighting if we fought under there.
Okay.
And he hops down in there and looks over, and he can see way over on the other side, there are coffins.
In the toy shop.
In the crawl space under the toy shop.
Oh my gosh.
I believe there were 4.
Oh my gosh.
It was 3 or 4. Let me check that real quick, actually. 4. There were 4 coffins.
Okay.
So we see kind of like lined up over on the wall, there's like 4 coffins over there. And we're like, okay, they're just here, I guess. And as soon as he stomps down there, it kind of makes enough noise. And we see the coffins kind of like kind of burst open, and claws come crawling out, and we are immediately in combat with 4 vampires. We don't know if they're spawns. We don't know if they're real vampires. We don't know if they're master vampires.
Oh my gosh.
Just see
Can you
4
imagine?
vampires.
You guys are like, what, level 5 at this point?
I will say the one thing that has kind of led us to believe that like these might not be that big a deal is every sign we've seen up to this point feels very like ravenous.
Yeah, okay.
And animalistic almost. Like there's claw marks all over all of the victims. There's multiple puncture wounds on them. So it's not like one guy just kind of quickly going and eating and being done like he's smart. It's almost more just like food.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of the mind that hopefully these are just like mindless spawn.
Yeah.
And not
otherwise
full-fledged
you guys
vampires.
Need to get out of here quick. Yeah.
Also,
why would a full-fledged vampire just be in the crawl space of a toy shop? You know,
I feel like exactly.
They might be a little bit more,
charismatic.
Yeah,
yeah.
Might be a little bit more of a lord or lady type of thing.
Trying to run things, yeah. So, but now it all kind of makes sense. You know, Racker's Alley is known for being like covered in a dark space, kind of back in the corner of the city. So, you know, people can just dump bodies in that alley and the vampires can come out and eat them no matter what time of day it is, you know.
Right. And they're undead, so they're immune to disease.
Right, exactly. We're still not sure why they're here, or where they came from, or how they got here.
Or if they've been up in that dude's attic for so long and then all of a sudden he just gets killed by them. Like,
yeah, we don't know if he brought them here. If somebody else brought them, we don't know. We don't know why they're here. But so a fight breaks out. Now, thankfully, this kind of crawl space situation almost saves us a little bit because Tombstone hops back out and they start kind of like rushing up to us, and they get like right to the opening of the crawl space when Alora, our cleric, casts Turn Undead.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice.
And all but one of them fail. So one of them succeeds and hops up and starts fighting us. The other 3 immediately rush back into the crawl space and try and get away because they're turned.
Right. Perfect.
Super helpful. So we literally, this whole fight goes by, and Dip's like so frustrated the whole time because we fought these 4 vampires one at a time.
Oh my gosh.
We fought and killed the first one. We hit another one so that it came out. We fought and killed that one. We hit another one so that it came out. We fought and killed that one. And then we hit another one and killed it at the end. In the bottom.
Poor Dip. But that's also very, very clever. Well done,
But
y'all.
that turn undead came in so clutch. Like, that would have been such a hard fight, fighting all 4 of those at one time.
Oh, yeah.
Thank goodness for clerics is all I'm going to say.
100%. Vampires also have that that drain ability, so like can reduce your hit point maximum and heal themselves. Yeah. And
at this point, we're not sure if they're spawn or if they can turn us. So we're very scared that by the end of this fight, one of us is a vampire.
That would be a very interesting little turn of events for Cal, huh? He's like, I don't need to be a lich anymore.
Yep. So we get through the fight pretty handily. We do well. Things go well for us. And we start kind of investigating. Through some investigation and recognition through the fight and some history checks and intelligence checks later, we come to the conclusion that these are all vampire spawns. Mm-hmm. They were all very bestial and didn't speak at all. They were very animalistic, and seemed just empty, and all they cared about was feeding. Yeah. So they were spawn, not true vampires, which also means they couldn't have turned us, which is also good. But what that does mean is, okay, where's the real vampire then?
Right?
Is there one nearby? Where did they come from? So we do some investigating, and we find out that all of their coffins are filled with an earth that has to be from where they are from, because that's how vampires work. Right. It has to be grave dirt from where you were buried where you died.
That's pretty clever.
And that's where you return to. And so we're able to recognize that this dirt is not from around here, from anywhere nearby even. It's weird soil. It's so
interesting,
dark and very, very luscious soil, wet. And so we determined that it's from, a different country. That's to the northeast of us. And that they must have been shipped here in these coffins or something.
Jeez.
And we see stamps on the coffins that I believe we saw stamps on I might be making this up in my brain. I think we saw stamps on the coffins from this place, or at least from a shipping company.
That would make sense on how
and so they were shipped here,
where they came from. Otherwise, that would be a little bit far-fetched to be yes, the soil is from this country.
So we know they're not from here. We know they don't belong here, and they got here somehow. We don't know if this guy I'm gonna order some vampires on the internet. Amazon's got vampires, right? We don't know what happened. We don't know how they got here, but they're here, and that might mean that the vampire who made them is nowhere nearby. He might still be where they came from, or he might have come with them.
Coming in later?
We don't really know. And actually, a little spoiler alert here, to this day, we still don't know anything about why these vampires were here.
It's just so odd, huh?
Out of nowhere. It seems so disconnected from everything else, even up to current date. We're still what? How do the vampires fit in? It doesn't make any sense.
I wonder if it's gonna get to the end and the queen's gonna be a vampire or something.
I don't know, man. I'm wondering if it's maybe because something that I've been thinking about a lot is we know the Arconas are heavily involved in what's going on, and they're kind of working with the queen. We think they're the Arconas are one of the royal families, and they live in Old Korvosa. And so Cal's kind of thinking are the Arconas vampires? Maybe like maybe like it could be like I don't know. It's super strange.
Okay.
And even at this point, it's like throwing us all for a loop. And the weirdest thing too is a little bit later we find other ties. Like there's so many things revolving around blood right now. Okay. There's vampires. The disease is called blood veil. A little bit later on, we find out that the Church of Asmodeus is taking blood donations to try and find a cure for blood veil.
Okay.
So we're like, why?
Some themes coming up.
We also
I'm just gonna throw out there. It's like the Grey Maidens have red on their
So there's and it's the Curse of the Crimson Throne. There's all sorts of weird blood stuff going on.
That's a very interesting point. Yeah.
So we also find out later that I don't know if you remember that the seneschal of the castle, who is the guy who like watches over the castle and also was the guy who basically ran the company of soldiers who rode on griffins. The seneschal, he's been missing for forever. And eventually we find out that the queen has officially given up on the search for him and has replaced the castle seneschal with a blood mage.
Oh, interesting.
A blood mage from Kermaga, which is a city in Korvosa, not Korvosa, in the city, the country that the queen is from. I forget what it's called. And blood mages are super weird in Pathfinder. They look like big guys in like sumo suits because they artificially over bloat themselves with blood so that there's like 4 people's blood worth of blood in their body.
Oh, wow.
And so they're like big and bloated and gross looking. They're super creepy in Pathfinder. But she's decided that that's who's going to be her seneschal, apparently. We haven't found that out yet at the point we're in right now, but we find that out a little bit later. I'm just trying to pull all these things because there's so many weird things that are like...
And that's so interesting. And I think you're
definitely... is a big thing right now, and we don't really know why. So
this is also just a thought as well. You know, this would be a great makings for an undead army. You just have a crap ton of
very good
bodies everywhere. If you have some sort of lords or ladies that are just like, necromancers, they suddenly have hundreds and hundreds of dead bodies.
Super good point. Yeah, we find out that they're basically digging mass graves in the gray to just fill them with the sick and then burn them.
I mean, you'd have to at this point, especially with a plague, you know?
Yeah.
Wow, dude, this is insane. I also just made this connection as well. I'm wearing my Strahd shirt.
Yep.
No idea that Kurtis was going to bring that up.
Yeah, so vampires.
Very interesting.
It was like so way out of left field. None of us were expecting vampires of all things to pop up.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy. The country that they come from, I don't remember the name of it right now, but it's basically Pathfinder's version of Barovia. It's like a Transylvania country.
Yes. Okay.
That's where they came. That's where they came from.
I know Dip has talked about it. Yes, because it's basically like they're like undead people ruling this country type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where they came from.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Weird stuff. Might have been coincidence. Maybe it's Maybelline.
Or just leaving, even maybe it doesn't really lead to anything, but it could just be adding to the themes that are going on here.
Yeah, I'm kind of just wondering because we've seen some of that a little bit too in the last campaign we went through, that it's like we'll go on little side adventures that don't necessarily fully connect, but they still feel very themed with what's going on, and so it kind of keeps you in the mood of what's happening while still filling. It's just kind of filling the time that you need to let the story progress or to level up or whatever.
Right. Which is actually something that, you know, Sarah and I were talking about. Like, sometimes you kind of need stuff like that, especially in a game where you are going to those higher levels. You kind of need space in order to do that, and that's something that we have noticed that isn't really a thing in the Baba Yaga campaign that we're doing. It's basically,
you guys are just constantly doing things.
we're constantly like on this like rails for Baba Yaga, trying to rescue her, right? And so it is very interesting.
It's a very focused story for sure.
Yeah, it's very focused and it's going for it. So sometimes it can be a little bit like a little bit jarring in cases where it's like, oh wow, okay, yeah, we're full on this. It is really fun to just kind of, I think it works really well in your campaign in the sense of just like you're getting the themes, you're seeing that stuff is afoot, and it's kind of like, well, what the fruitcake?
Well, and
stuff is happening. It's a curse.
Yeah, and Dip has said that you know, after this chapter, things get much more focused. Right now, we're still very like pieces are being pulled in. We're still like at the end of every quest, we're like, okay, now what do we do? Like, we don't really have any defined things to tackle. We're still just figuring out what's even happening, and the city's kind of just gradually changing around us, and we're just reacting to it. Right. We're not actively seeking anything almost. And Dip said that, you know, things are, and I've noticed this, things are very quickly ramping up and becoming much more like, oh, it's bad. Oh, it's getting bad. Oh, things are real bad. And Dip said it's going to like, kind of come to a head, and then things kind of go whoop, and get very focused and turns into a very like, we know what we're about now kind of campaign. I also just recalled that necromancer that you guys were after that you never found. Yep, still don't know where he's at. We think he might be involved a little bit. We're really not sure, and that's he's a lamb, which is the family that you know got us all together in the first place because of how terrible this family is.
It's like awful people.
And so we're at this point, Cal's almost thinking like maybe he is a part of the cult of Urgathoa and kind of like set all this up, kind of a thing.
Right.
Like, we're not really sure, but yeah. So we're still just grasping at straws, man. There's like so much happening that it's literally like a big pinboard, and we're just putting strings to everything. It's crazy.
Well, and I'm excited to see what you guys do. It's like when you do kind of get a little bit more on like focused. I'm kind of like, what trails are you guys going to be focusing on? Is it going to be trying to wrap it up, or are you guys going to have to be like choosing? Like, do you go after the vampire people, or do you go after the necromancer? You're like,
so far what I'm feeling is going to happen. I think everything's going to kind of come to a head at the end of this, and at the end of this chapter, it's going to be like, boom, martial law's in place. There's enough Grey Maidens to just straight up shut down the city and set up martial law. And I think it's going to turn into like a rebellion campaign.
Which would be very fun.
Where we're like heading up the secret underground of the city, like the rebellious underground of the city. So we'll see. I don't know that for sure. It just kind of feels like that's where it's going. So we'll see.
Very cool. I'm excited. And also I just want to bring it up. That was a really cool way to also show how scary the Grey Maidens were. Jumping back to what Squish saw.
Yeah, that was good like, way.
Very interesting for like just in a campaign sense of like you guys been seeing them here and there, and the first time that you really have seen them in action is just slaughtering a bunch
just a massacre. Yep.
Like
don't get me wrong, like people, but they're commoners, and some of them were sick, but still, if the five of us fought a group of 100 people, we wouldn't come out without a scratch.
100%. Yeah.
So, yeah, pretty crazy.
I think that a great way to demonstrate to the party that's like, hey, they be crazy. A great way to solidify how scary those ones are. I'm excited to see you guys maybe eventually go up against them if that does happen.
We'll see.
I don't know. Maybe you guys all join the Queen. This is a D&D game. Who knows what choices will happen?
Cal's very unpredictable.
Yeah. What's going to happen if Cal gets like dominated person on and he leads the party to go join the Queen?
I guess we'll have to find out.
Well, thank you, Kurtis. Is that the end of story time with Kurtis for today?
Yeah, I think that's a good spot.
Good stop.
Yeah, we'll hop in next time, finishing off with vampires here.
Do so you guys we'll stop here. Do you guys head out, or is there more stuff going on in this area?
We continue to look around Old Korvosa for a bit, so we'll get into that next time.
Cool. Wonderful. Well, a little tease for next time, for jumping back over to our side. We ran into centaurs last time after the dancing hut was attacking the frost giants that was on our side. Very fun. So we ran into centaurs, and we're going to be talking with them and seeing what their deal is. Are they on our side? Are they okay with Baba Yaga? Apparently the frost giants did not like Baba Yaga. So what's the deal with those centaurs? Are we going to be able to find the three that watch? The mother, maiden, crone. We'll see. Maiden, mother, crone. Yeah.
Join us next time.
There it is. Back to
on the backyard tabletop.
Oh, I think a good secret word for this week, Kurtis, could be markings.
Markings.
Like pierce markings. I feel like vampire would be too easy, so
I was thinking necrosis, but necrosis is kind of hard to spell, so let's do markings.
Maybe we'll have two. We'll have two secret words.
Pick
today.
One, and it will forever tell us which one of us is your favorite.
We will always pull this up as a means.
And if you post both, you're banned forever. You have to pick.
Thank you all so much for joining and listening to us today. I have been Jake.
I've been Kurtis. It's hot in here,
and it's a little warm, so it's hot this summer, man. I'm looking forward to fall. I'm a warmer weather person, but I'm really kind of looking forward to fall right now. This has been too much.
Wrap it up, Jake.
Okay.